Good morning to everybody and anybody. How you doing? Hope all is well. Keep up the beautiful work. Today is Monday, Parashat Mishpatim. Today is what they call PZ Day, President's Day. Some people are off from work, but look, they're still going to learn Torah Yishtabach Shemo. Not only that, they're learning even more Torah. That shows Hashem that the more important thing to you in the life is to learn Torah. Some people, the second they're off, they'll go to Johannesville, they'll go here, and Baruch Hashem, the people we know, they're going to classes. Keep it up. Speaking about classes, we have something called Torah Anytime. It's a most fabulous website. I know the person and his brother who founded Torah Anytime. They do it 1 gazillion% l'shem shamayim. They don't get one penny out of the deal. You ready for this number? Last year, just 1 year, they had 15 million hours of learning Torah on well, I didn't even know it's possible. Thousands and thousands and thousands of listeners all over the world, times all the classes, 15 million hours, and a website that has so many classes and so many people watching. You have to have a lot of good stuff. Yishtabach Shemo, a lot of machines, a lot of backup, and these things cost money, as we know. Not only that, but they're making two inventions. We know there's a movement out there which is proper and correct, that they have kosher phones and filtered machines, especially for the youth, because who knows what could happen, etc., especially in the schools. So they have a Torah Anytime they're making. It's the size of a credit card with all of the classes. Imagine all of the classes on. You could listen. You can't listen to anything else. If you're hoping to listen to the old Rush Limbaugh recordings, you're not going to be able to, or Sean Hannity, or anything else. It's only Torah. They also made an AI item they're in the middle of making also, that you could ask the AI, what did Rabbi Krohn speak about when he said this and this story, and it gives you the whole item. Imagine, these things cost a lot of money, Yishtabach Shemo, but they're great things for the world. Everyone watching any kind of class, men, women, and children, 24/7, Spanish, French, even Igpay, Atenlay, they have it. So if you can, they're making a huge collection over this weekend, President's Weekend. If you can do, we're going to put a link in the chat. Be'ezrat Hashem Itbarach. We know we make a lot of drives, but guess what? Baruch Hashem, people are coming to you for tzedakah, and I bless you. They should always come. We always want to be from the givers. Be'ezrat Hashem, as it says, Ach tov v'hesed yidifuni kol yemei hayai, and you're spreading Torah. And we know it says v'talmud Torah keneged kulam. Everyone wants beracha, and we know if it says Talmud Torah keneged kulam, that the greatest beracha in the world is Torah. Then guess what? Obviously, by you participating in whatever you can, whatever you can do, you give to this wonderful holy endeavor that they're doing, Zat Hashem, so they could spread even more Torah in the world. And now for our featured presentation. We spoke many times about the story of Hannah. Hannah, we learned many halachot from a woman. Even the men have to follow these halachot, how a person prays, how we have to move our lips when we pray, etc. Because Hannah's story is second to none. She teaches us what prayer is all about. And because of prayer, she brought a child into the world, and that child was a prophet, and that was Shemuel Hanavi, and he was the one that anointed Shaul HaMelech. He was the one that anointed David HaMelech, Yishtabach Shemo La'ad, and he was one of the greatest Nevi'im. There's a whole mountain in Israel called Shemuel Hanavi, and people go to his kever. When the Ora Hayim was going to his kever, he got on his hands and legs, and he crawled up because if we knew Shmuel Hanavi was, we would have fear and awe. But anyway, that all came out of that episode with Hannah. When Hannah is talking, she told Eli HaKohen, shout out to all the Kohanim and anyone from the Towel family. We know our community people that are named Towel have Mesorah that they come from Eli HaKohen. Long story short, she says the words, and like we said, we learned many halachot from her story, but one of the things she says, Ani ha'isha hanitzevet imecha bazeh. I am the one standing with you over here. Why did she have to say standing? What do we learn from that story? And the answer is that when somebody is praying the Amidah, you are not allowed to sit on his sides, on either side, within 4 amot, or you're not allowed to sit, especially in front of him, within 4 amot. And according to the Kabbalah, according to the Zohar, not only 4 amot in front, but even the whole entire room in front. Why? Because there's a few reasons. Halachically, it's not showing respect. The Shekhinah is there, and how could somebody just sit down and do nothing after Shekhinah is there? However, let's say a person is sitting down, but he's praying. Are you allowed to sit down and pray within 4 amot if somebody is in middle of the Amidah on the sides or in front? Well, in front, we're going to give you more halachot, but for now, we'll go with the sides. Are you allowed to? And the answer is yes. If you're praying or you're learning Torah, you're allowed to. Why? Because we said if the reason why you can't do it is because the Shekhinah is there, that then how could a person sit down? It's disrespect. We know there are certain times we're not allowed to sit down. We have to stand up. When the Torah is coming out, we have to stand up. A quick disclaimer, even though it's a little off tangent, we always mention all the time, Baruch Hashem, a lot of people are writing Sifrei Torah the past few months and years, and getting a Sefer Torah written for them, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. However, there are people who are spending a lot of money on cases, which is beautiful because it says in the Torah, "Ze eli v'amvehu," we have to glorify Hashem with our mitzvot. However, number one, people far away in Never Neverland, they might spend more on the case than they do on the scroll, and obviously that makes no sense. However, the newer cases, the carbon fiber, they make modern cases and rimonim, and some of the people who make them aren't religious. Not that they have to be religious to make it. However, and we do love everybody. However, the rimonim have a halacha. The purpose of the rimonim is to make noise, like the Syrian ladies' bangles. For another subject that we'll talk about another time, we did discuss it in yesterday's morning's class. But regarding the rimonim, what's the whole purpose of the rimonim on the Torah? Because if a guy's in the middle of praying and he doesn't know they're carrying the Torah, a lot of times they'll bring one Torah from another minyan, etc. Oh, they need to take it out from the minyan you're praying for another minyan. So if the guy is in his seat praying and he doesn't even realize they're moving the Torah, he didn't stand up. So they put the rimonim to make noise. This way you hear that sound, the clanking, you know you have to stand up in honor of the Torah. And now they started making the rimonim, like we said, in middle, without the noises, without the bells, and therefore they just do it for fanciness. But the whole point of the rimonim is to make noise. So make sure if you do, even buy a very expensive case, Hashem should give you the parnasah to buy a Torah a day for life, Be'ezrat Hashem, and that will be your spare cash. Be'ezrat Hashem. However, make sure to follow that halacha. So back to our subject regarding someone praying the Amidah. We're not allowed to sit down next to them, but if we are learning Torah, then you're allowed to, because we said the whole purpose of standing is because the Shekhinah is there. But when you're learning Torah, the Shekhinah is also there. And that's a respectful thing to do. What if somebody's sitting down and paying attention to the Hazara? Now, are you allowed to sit in the Hazara, of course you're allowed to sit. Ashkenaz are stricter when it comes to sitting down during the repetition of the Amidah, but Sephardic are more lenient and we're allowed to. However, there's a little misconception far away that when it comes to Modim, people think they're allowed to stay sitting. And Hamavadia, I'll never forget it. I watched him my whole life. He always, no matter how tired, no matter even if he's not feeling well, he always stood up for Modim. Even after 90 years old, he was weaker and he still stood up for Modim. So even though we sit during Hazara, but when it comes to Modim, you have to stand up and bow when you say the Modim Dirabanan. So now, when we're sitting down, if someone wants to sit down next to someone still in the Amidah and he's not praying or he's not learning, but he wants to pay attention to the repetition of the Amidah, is that considered tefillah? And the answer is not really. It does not help in order to sit down, even though you're supposed to listen to the Hazara. And it is a beautiful thing to listen to the Hazara. However, it's not enough of a mitzvah to be able to sit next to someone who is still praying the Amidah. But if the person is older or they're weak, God forbid, but real weak, not heke post Super Bowl week, real weak, then that's why they say Allah weak. Hashem should always give everybody strength, Be'ezrat Hashem. But if they're really older and not feeling well, then they are allowed to sit. What's the halacha with somebody leaning? Does leaning fall into the same category as sitting? And the answer is depends. What does it depend on? If you would move the item that they're leaning on and they would fall, right? Of course, they'll catch themselves. We should always be supported by the one above. Somech noflim be'ezrat Hashem yitbarach. But if it would be that the person's really leaning, a heavy leaning, that we consider that sitting. For example, as well, we know when we say David after Anna, you're supposed to sit down. We don't stand up when we say it. Sometimes you might be in a synagogue for Mincha. Our community, most synagogues skip David when you pray later. They just say Anna. However, when they pray earlier, all the synagogues say the David, and there are some synagogues that even later they do say the David, each to their own. However, when we say the David after Anna, you're supposed to sit down. But let's say you're praying in Mincha, let's say in the synagogue where there's minyanim all the time, etc., and the room might be small, there's no room for you to sit. What do? So you lean against the wall in a way that you're really leaning, that if the wall would move, that a person could fall. That is considered a real leaning. Why? Because it's considered real sitting. So on the one hand, it's a good thing when you have to sit, but on the other hand, if someone is leaning next to somebody who's praying the Amidah, that is considered sitting as well. What if you were there first? Who's on first? Third base. If a person was there first and then the person came to sit down and pray Amidah, to stand up and say Amidah, then you're good because you were there first. But if you want to get up for extra credit, then it is allowed and it is recommended for what we call Midat Hasidut. Now, there are other reasons as well besides the Shekhinah being there, and that is because it could disturb somebody's praying, especially if it's in front of them. What's the law if there's a wall of glass? Believe it or not, there are synagogues. There's one in the Park Avenue in the basement. They built a glass wall. So and now you have people praying by that wall. Are you allowed to walk by the that wall on the outside while people are praying? And the answer is technically not. Why? Because one of the main reasons you can't walk in front of somebody is you're disturbing their praying. So, what's the difference if there's a glass wall or not? You could still disturb their prayer. However, even though the glass wall for this isn't considered a separation, but for other halachic things, it is considered a reshut b'fnei atzmo, which means if there's a real glass wall, a separation, and there's 9 inside the shul and 1 over there on the other side of even a window, then the rule is they do not mitzdaref, they do not become part of the minyan. But anyway, the Zohar is even stricter to walk in front of somebody because the Shekhinah is there, even if his eyes are closed or he has his talit over his face. Now, there's one thing sitting, as we just learned about, but we know you're not allowed to walk in front of somebody who's praying either. Now, there's a difference between walking and sitting because you're not allowed to sit on the sides of a person, but you are allowed to walk past a person on their sides while they're in the middle of Amidah. But in front of them, you're not allowed to walk in front of a person that's praying. And technically, even if they're closing their eyes, but if they're closing their eyes, there are leniencies, or if they're talets over their eyes. Because according to Pshat, the reason is because you don't want to disturb their prayer. But according to Kabbalah and mysticism, mystical, then you're not allowed to walk because of the Shekhinah being there, etc. And because there are differences, there are times that it's allowed. We know for the Kohanim out there, there's a second shout out to the Kohanim. A Kohen washes Yadayim before he blesses the Kahal. There are some people that say you already washed. They hold like the Rambam, if you wash in the morning, etc. But Hamavadiyah is for the halacha that the people should, the Kohanim, should wash again beforehand. But what if the Kohen now that has to go wash has to walk in front of somebody that's praying the Amidah? Do we say the washing is so crucial that he's allowed to walk in front of somebody, or do we say pass? And survey says, the rabbi says pass for that situation, because better not to walk in front than to wash netilat yadayim, because we don't want to disturb the fellow by walking in front of him, or especially according to the Zohar and the Kabbalah. Another halacha example scenario the rabbi gives: if a person has to go give a class to a rabbim, when a rabbi has to give a class, if he's going to learn himself, technically he shouldn't walk in front unless extremely necessary. However, if he's going to give a class, we know when it comes to public, a rabbim, a person should most definitely go out of his way to give a class to the rabbim. The Gemara elaborates, and the words of our rabbis all over elaborate at the power of a rabbi giving a class to a rabbim, a shiur, and therefore, if a rabbi has to go give a class and there's someone praying Amidah, he of course walks in front of him. What if a person is number 10 in a minyan? He's in a room and there are people praying, and they need him in another room for a minyan. And in order to go finish the minyan, he has to walk in front of someone. So it has the same law as going to give a class, berabim, because it's for the rabbim, it's for the a whole tzibur, and therefore finishing a minyan is for a tzibur, which means that he's allowed to walk in front of somebody. Now we know there's a halacha called the makom kavua. Now, of course, a lot of people far away in Neverland take the halacha of makom kavua a little too much. Number one, makom kavua means an 8-foot radius, dalir amot, which means if someone's in your actual chair, you don't have to bring him to the firing squad and call the SWAT team and this one and that one, right? Person, if you could do it nicely because it's your seat or whatever it is, and you have your candies hidden underneath and your book, etc., then that's one thing. But to make a guy feel like 2 cents to go pray in a makom kavua, that's the exact opposite of what a makom kavua is supposed to be. Because the Gemara says when you have a makom kavua, it's like Avraham Avinu, who was humble. If a guy's going to throw someone out of his seat because it was as if forget about it, he's a terrorist, has v'halila, that's a little too much. That's number one. Also, if a person has to walk in front of someone praying to go to his makom kavua, is he allowed to? Should he? And the rabbi says no. Better to pray where you are, even if it's not your official makom kavua, than to walk in front of somebody. Look how serious it is to walk in front of somebody. I still have memories from when I was a tiny kid. One time I was walking and a rabbi, I was bechaf. It took me like a long time to get over it, but I remember we didn't know better, so we were walking. The rabbi already took 3 steps back. So I was walking in front of him before he took his 3 steps forward again. He stuck out his hand and gave me a look. How you doing? It was pretty bechafi. But anyway, we learned the halachot, and that's why we have this class. Baruch Hashem. So you people, you already know the halachot, but you could teach it to the people that are out there that aren't as learned as you. I hope everyone has the greatest day. Keep up the great work. If you're off, try not to hang out in the kitchen when the wife is doing things, right? We know there's a saying, Rahok matok. Far is sweet. How you doing? Right? And if she wants to go somewhere where the wind won't go blasting in everyone's faces, then enjoy the day. We hope everyone enjoys the day and has the best day. Take care. All the best. Bye. Enjoy. Bye.